Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Cotton Grow Magazine's Cotton Companion podcast, and thanks for tuning in again. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and colleague, Beck Barnes. It's mid-March, and from what we're hearing, a lot of growers are still trying to finalize their cropping decisions as planting time nears. That is, unless, of course, you're in South Texas, where corn and sorghum are already in the ground and cotton seed is either in the ground or loaded in the planters.
Yeah. Of course, they're getting started way down there in South Texas. I think a lot of guys are still putting pencil to paper and using that eraser as we get into deep spring here. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in the podcast. But it's good to see. I'll tell you what, it's been nice to see, Jim, and that's that a lot of my Facebook feed is all these farmers out in the turkey woods this past week. So it's been good to see some of the guys still enjoying themselves, not huddled up in their farm office running the numbers. So happy to see that.
That's great. Well, Beck, you and I have been around this industry for a long time. And as we've mentioned, I'm not sure I've seen the level of uncertainty as planting is getting ready to gear up. We all know market prices are still deflated, although there has been just a little bit of an upward tick for cotton and other commodities in the past week, which is encouraging. Input prices haven't really changed. And politics, whether it's related to tariffs, economic aid payments, and/or a new farm bill, certainly add a degree of difficulty to getting this growing season started. And obviously, financing, as you mentioned, is a key to making some of those final decisions. And even at this late date, financial decisions can still impact what a grower may or may not be able to do this year. So today we're going to talk about what growers can do to position themselves and their farms for financial success this year. We're going to be visiting with Andrea Herbst, who's a senior territory manager with Nutrien Financial. She wrote an article on the subject for the March issue of Cotton Grower, and we're going to discuss that situation and get some advice from her in just a few minutes. So stay tuned.
Yeah, but Jim, as we are potting here on March 19, I should shoehorn this bit of news into this episode. That is the emergency commodity assistance program
Right.
was approved for availability funding. Funding was approved yesterday. So that's a little bit of, we were mentioning politics and
Right.
on-farm economy. There's a little bit of good news that came down the pipe just yesterday. So we'll get into all that a little later with Andrea. The first thing you want to do is to share a message from a new sponsor to the Cotton Companion, and that is ICL Growing Solutions.
In nutrient management, precision and profitability go hand in hand. From buds to bowls, ICL offers tailored solutions for every stage of cotton growth. Whether you're looking for water-soluble and liquid options like Nova or specialty granular fertilizers like polysulfate, ICL's full range is designed to maximize yields, improve quality, and reduce input costs sustainably. Find your fertilizer match today at icl-growingsolutions.us.
Okay, big thanks to ICL Growing Solutions for that message and for their support of the Cotton Companion podcast.
Well, Beck, as we've noted over the last several episodes, cotton industry news has kind of been scarce as planting approaches. There have been some recent announcements that indicate that a couple of new biological products are poised to come to market this year, both of them for some very specific purposes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, things are moving in the world of biologicals. So first up, we have word that Pivot Bio is launching CertN, that's pronounced like certain, a new biological product for cotton crops in the United States. The product features Pivot Bio's patent-protected technology that provides a steady source of nitrogen to cotton plants from emergence to harvest, providing weatherproof nitrogen and helping the crop reach its full yield and fiber quality potential. Now, Certain is the only gene-edited nitrogen fixer available for cotton. Applied as a seed treatment, it spoon-feeds nitrogen to the roots, setting crops up for early square retention, higher boll counts, and healthier plants at defoliation time. In Pivot Bio's 2024 large-scale farm trials across 8 states, fields treated with Certain replaced an average of 20% of their normal nitrogen program and saw an average yield gain of 50 pounds of lint per acre and a $35 boost in ROI. Pivot Bio will conduct demo fields of certain with selected growers across the cotton belt to showcase the benefits of this new technology as part of a limited commercial launch here in 2025, but a full commercial launch is slated for 2026. Also, in the world of biologicals, Outreach SC, a soil applied biological nematicide, is EPA registered and now available from Valent. Outreach is a unique biological formulation that provides cotton and peanut growers protection against nematodes while contributing to plant health benefits. Comprised of naturally occurring microbes, Outreach colonizes plant roots, providing a protective barrier against nematode feeding, damage, and improving plant vigor. Outreach consistently outperformed competing products across more than 120 large-scale grower-applied field trials in 2024. Lint yield increases were documented in cotton field trials, and in peanut fields where Outreach was applied in furrow, crops recorded per acre yield increases of up to 300 pounds. Wowzers. Now, for more information about the product and Outreach trials in your area, contact your Valent representative or simply visit valent.com.
That's right. And as you mentioned just a few moments ago, again, late yesterday afternoon, we did get the word from USDA about the economic aid payments and all that approved and the systems in place. I posted an article on our website actually late yesterday afternoon about it, a little congratulatory note of appreciation from the National Cotton Council to the Trump administration and certainly to Secretary Rollins for that. And in that little article, you'll find the link to the page that you'll need to go to fill out the information and get everything submitted and squared away in order to receive your payments. So please check that out and make sure to take advantage of the program.
Yeah, very good. A little late breaking news here on the cotton. We're nothing if not a late breaking news source.
That's true.
And
That's true. Definitely. Now let's move to today's discussion and welcome Andrea Herbst to the Cotton Companion Virtual Studio. Andrea is Senior Territory Manager with Nutrien Financial. Andrea, thank you for taking time to join us today and welcome to the Cotton Companion.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Well, for starters, if you don't mind, tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself and your work with Nutrien
Sure.
Financial.
Sure. I've been with Nutrien Financial now for about 6 years, almost 6 years. I have a background with farm credit prior to that, so it blends in well with what I get to do on a daily basis with Nutrien Financial. I basically support the Nutrien Ag Solutions retail team with helping them give the best financial suggestions and advice for their customers, and they'll bring me into those conversations as well with our growers. I have degrees from Texas A&M and Oklahoma State University, both in agricultural economics. So I think that bodes well into what I get to do on a daily basis. Within Nutrien Financial, my territory I cover is all of Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. So I have a pretty big geographical area that I cover, lots of miles. Let's put it that way. So yeah.
As we're visiting today, it's mid-March.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that most growers have their financing and plans in place for this growing season, but I think we know better considering current economic conditions, farm level. We've had 2 years of declining profits. It's probably not exactly true that everybody's ready to go at this point. What are you hearing from growers and what types of questions are they asking you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think that we have some growers, especially out in, let's say, the West Texas area, that will grow cotton every year. That's what their equipment is for. That's what they know to do. That's what the land is best suited for. So that's what they're going to do. On the other hand, we have some folks that are on the fence still. Cotton prices are not where we'd like them to be. I just checked this morning. It's at 66 cents with futures projected closer to 70. So maybe we're on the right track here. But I've noticed that corn prices have bumped a little bit. And so I think more growers are kind of weighing the checks and balances as to whether they want to do corn or cotton this coming year. We do have some folks even switching into grain sorghum. So yeah, definitely lots of options out there still. Lots of decisions to be made still too, though. In my area where I live in Texas, the decisions have been made. Crops are in the ground already. But out in West Texas, they plant a little bit later. They won't plant until May or June in some areas. So they're still definitely penciling things out and making those decisions still.
Well, in your article for Cotton Grower, which we certainly appreciate you putting together, you say that even with uncontrollables in the market, things like the market, commodity prices, and weather, for sure, it's still possible to make a profit in a tough year. What should a grower be thinking about first in order to put an organized plan together to try to make that happen?
I think one of the biggest things they need to do is have their capital management strategy in place. A lot of times, the agronomic decisions and the financing and economic decisions are two different people. And so those people need to sit down and put things on paper and come up with a plan, I think, as to best fit their operation, whether it's changing from cotton to corn this year, whether it's adjusting crop protection that they apply to their crops. First of all, like I said, the capital management strategy I think is the best place to start. Whether it's if you have money for prepay, which unfortunately in this market a lot of folks don't, where you're going to borrow your money from if you have cash reserves from years before. I know 2021 in Texas especially was a bumper crop year. We had a fantastic yield that year along with good prices. So if you can still work off of that, I guess, jump in your earnings, that's something definitely to consider. But yeah, I would think sitting down, putting the pen to paper, and making sure you have everything lined up as best you can with the plans as to what you're going to apply to your crops every year. And then equipment purchases, whether you're going to rent or lease or purchase or lease, I'm sorry, labor costs, that sort of thing. There's just a lot of factors that come into making these decisions every year.
Now, you mentioned several things in that statement, and really truly, is there any one thing more important in the current planning environment, whether it's cash or whether it's lines of credit or prepay or other financial options, or is it just some of each of them?
I would say it's a combination of everything. Even input prices, input costs. If you've done a premium product every year, maybe go to a more generic or a proprietary product that we I know Nutrien, we offer our own proprietary products as well. So making some of those types of adjustments, maybe adjusting application rates per se. But as far as cash and cash management, capital management, I would say lines of credit are probably going to be one of the biggest factors this year in input costs per se. And I guess the best advice I would have on that is shopping around. I know a lot of people, you go with the same thing every year. You work with the same lender. That relationship is there, but at the same time, there could be somewhere else that offers a better rate. I know we suggest to our growers, we have our own financing that we offer that a lot of times can beat the operating lines that they have. So, but they still want to use that operating line. So we'll suggest, use our financing, pay us back with your operating line, and then pay yourself back. So there's different ways to strategize that and utilize everything that they have to offer when it comes to financing.
So basically, all the options are on the table this year.
Absolutely.
You can pick and choose, and look at all the different examples and everything that are there,
Right.
and come up with what fits best at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like I mentioned earlier, sitting down with that, your sometimes we refer to them as their bookkeeper, your financing and economics person. Like I said, a lot of times those are not the same person that's running a tractor. So
Yeah, definitely.
So, Andrea, going into this challenged year, we know that a lot of our guys are watching their budget lines very carefully, sitting down with a pen and paper and looking at expenses. And you just mentioned a couple of examples and ways they could kind of look at those cost reduction. You mentioned maybe thinking about re-examining application rates, re-examining maybe moving to a more generic product. Are there any other general ways in which our guys can reduce cost heading into 2025 and get the biggest bang for their buck?
There's a lot of factors, a lot of stuff, creating a budget, just sitting down and creating a budget itself. I think a lot of people tend to overlook that because they're just going to do the same thing they've always done in the past. But with money being as tight as it is this year and the outlook on prices not being as optimal as we'd like, I think really sitting down and putting to the penny as best you can, what your operation might look like this year and where to make adjustments from there. It might be something where if you've always had custom harvest, rent equipment this year, or just totally different options that you haven't looked at in the past, maybe a little bit of thinking outside the box. Once you get that pen to paper adjustment or application made, and decide from there um, where you can kind of tweak and make adjustments as you see fit. Um, but yeah, and I think a lot of times we kind of get set in our ways and stuck in a rut as to what we've done every year. And, maybe consult with your crop consultant as to something that, we can try this year. We've got this new product this year, or we've done this in the past and it's worked really well, but we haven't tried it on your operation yet. Um, you know, Talking to people out in the fields, reaching out to extension folks, that sort of thing also, I think is something that people can consider this year as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing you say examine expenses holistically across
Yeah.
the operation.
Yes.
And that's great advice.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking the general public just doesn't get how much of being a small business owner is in farming.
Yeah.
They think of, the general public thinks of farmers as, yeah, I don't know, a hayseed sticking out of their mouth, and they just don't have to think about the stuff that a small business owner does. But that is
Yeah.
exactly what these guys are.
Oh, they wear so many hats.
Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely agree.
Yeah. I'd ask you, without going into specifics, heading into this year, you've no doubt seen or heard of difficult circumstances, difficult situations that our
Like,
farmers are facing. Without specifics, what are some of those difficult types of situations you've seen our guys grappling with?
yeah, I think one of the biggest things is whether to continue or not. It's not an easy decision to even decide, are we done? Do we sell the land? Do we make some money off of that sale, sell to another farmer, lease to another farmer this year, and just try and kind of limp through until we get to a year where things are looking a little bit better. And those are some really tough decisions that people are facing this year in the sense of, if you've been a farmer your entire career, that's all you know. And now you're having to decide whether that's something you want to do or not still. And it's not because you don't want to, it's because the outlook and the economics of it just doesn't work right now. So that would be one of the biggest factors I think people are facing, is whether to really continue in the operation or not, even for this coming year. And I know that's pretty drastic, but in Texas here, specifically in West Texas, this is our third year in a row that we've dealt with drought and low yields and insurance claims. And it's tough. It's really tough. We've got guys that still haven't been able to sell their cotton from last year because the gins aren't buying anything right now. They're behind on payments. It's just, like I said, just a lot of decisions that have to be made still moving forward into next year.
Yeah, you mentioned that 21 bumper crop earlier, and I was sitting here thinking, well, that seems like a million years ago.
I know. Yeah.
It's a tough time since then.
Yeah. It's also, whenever I walk into a location with work built, it's like, man, if we could just get a 2021 again, that would make things so much better. So, yeah.
I honestly think that was the last time I was actually in Lubbock. I usually try to go out in the fall, to talk to growers and,
Huh?
see how things are going. And the last couple of years, it's sort of like, just don't come out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's been rather bleak, unfortunately. So,
I will get out there this year.
okay.
I
Okay. Let me
promise.
know when you do.
All right, I will. I'll definitely let you know. Having been around the cotton market for a long time, we've seen it cycle up, go down, back up, back down so many, many times. It just seems like this cycle we're in right now is taking so much longer to work its way back
Yeah.
up. And yet, as you've mentioned, and as we all know, cotton growers always seem to remain optimistic in the face of lousy times, and that's really true what we're in. Any advice or words of encouragement you have to help them kind of get through this year?
Oh goodness. I would say just, keep doing what you're doing. These guys, they do this year in and year out. They know what they're doing. And at some point it has to bounce back. And I feel like if it's not this year, it's hopefully very soon. But yeah, I would just say, manage things the best you can. They're going to make it through because they do this every year. It's hard to say, just keep doing what you're doing, but at the same time, it's what they do best. They're going to do what they do, and they're going to do it to the best of their abilities. And I mean, no farmer puts seed in the ground is just like, well, let's see what happens. They're going to try. They're definitely going to try and make a crop every year. But then there comes a point when you realize that it may just not happen. And you work with your insurance at that point and you move on to the next year. So
That's right.
I would, just stay strong as best you can and try to make it through. And I feel like good things are coming. So yeah.
That's great. We're there with you.
Yeah.
That one. Andrea, thanks so much for taking time to join us today. I'm sitting here as someone who sometimes has trouble balancing my checkbook. So, a lot of what you're saying, quite honestly, are pretty helpful tips for folks like me too. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I think it applies across the board. So yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners have gotten a lot out of this conversation as well. If folks have questions and want to get in touch with you or your colleagues, what's the best way for them to do?
So our email addresses are probably the best, or you can find a lot of information on our website at nutrienfinancial.com. And then my email is simply andrea.herbst@nutrien.com.
Andrea, thanks again for taking time. We really do appreciate it. And we'll check back with you again. This has been an interesting discussion, and I'm sure there's more to this story to tell as we get into the season.
Good deal. Sounds like a plan.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, all right. That's it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to say thank you again to Andrea Herbst with Nutrien Financial for joining us for today's discussion. And thanks, too, to our newest sponsor, ICL Growing Solutions, for their support of the podcast. And as always, thanks to you, dear listeners, for joining us and for your continuing support. As always, we hope that you've enjoyed what you've heard, and if you did, please be sure to spread the word and tell your farming friends and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
Cotton Companion podcast is produced twice monthly by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, East Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in 2 weeks with USDA's prospective plantings report in hand, the next episode of the Cotton Companion.
'Cause God made me a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God